G'day guys, Clint here, recording episode number 57 of The Full Landscape with Pete and Nick from Yardstick Landscape Services. These guys have been kind enough to come in December. It's a very busy time of year and a very busy time of life for both of them running this business. So I appreciate their time. It's a partnership that works well because one of them is a landscape architect and the other one is in charge of construction. So I dive into how that works and their experiences building this business over the last 20 years for Pete and 10 years for Nick. So if you're looking to get into the landscape industry or you're in the industry and you're looking to grow, this is a good one for you. Pete's the retiring president of the Master Landscape Association. So he's got some insight around licensing and the things that he has been involved in along the way. So I'll leave this with you now. Sit back, relax and enjoy. Thank you both so much for coming in. I understand, I guess it's early December. This is probably the worst time for both of you to be coming in and recording a podcast, so I do appreciate it. Before we get started, if you can just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about Yardstick and where that came from, I guess, the start of it, and then the movement into it being a partnership.
Okay. So, introduce myself, Peter. I started Yardstick, started Yardstick after doing a diploma of landscape design at TAFE. There was one guy in my class, Gavin Lawrence, who's an excellent designer. I recognised as better than me, so I kind of just tapped him on the shoulder and said, let's get together and start working on this. It was last year at TAFE. It kind of took off pretty quick. That was 2002. And then post-diploma, we both worked together as business partners, designing only, and then from there it built quite well and quite quickly. Started the first iteration of a construction side of the company with Roger Goss, who's now for the Bullseye Creative. That went okay for a while, but then didn't go to plan, so we ended up just designing again. I ended up just designing again. Then I started studying Master's Landscape Architecture and needed a bit more time. So I actually took a job with a friend as a designer. And very quickly, within the first couple of weeks, that went pear-shaped. That business unfortunately shut down. Nick was working there. And that's where I met him. And then as soon as that shut down, we started this version of Yardstick, which was 2015.
Yeah. So you were designing for a long time, one-person, two-person show?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
And so if you want to introduce yourself as well and talk about the lead into that as well.
Yeah, so my name's Nick. As Pete said, I met Pete at a previous company. Before that, I was running my own business, subcontracting for paving companies, just doing basic paving, retaining and all that sort of stuff, and moved up into this line of work with that company, and then met Pete during that period.
So that you were at a point where you're like, this makes sense to install again. Obviously, that you'd now met each other, and that kind of grew pretty quickly. Obviously, like you had staff.
Well, because that company folded, we approached the staff and said, do any of you want to come with us? One of them's still with us.
Yep. Some of them went and started their own thing, or went,
because we were designing and constructing at that business, we just kind of said, well, let's just carry on.
Because were there jobs that business had almost started or nearly had that you had to take over or anything like that, or you had to start from scratch?
I ran that company for 9 months. We tidied up all the loose ends.
Yeah, okay.
Then we started again.
Challenging time. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And so that was 2015, did you say?
Yeah. That would have been end of 2014.
Yeah.
Yep. So Yardstick, I don't know if it's 2.0 or 3.0, I'm not sure what you would consider it.
3 probably.
3.0 is now a landscape design and construction business.
Yes. So, landscape architecture and construction business now.
Yeah, I probably should be more respectful with those terms. I'll catch myself out doing that all the time. And so, are you the only landscape architect or the only person doing design or architecture work in the business?
No, there's three of us.
There's three of you.
Adrian does most of it, quite honestly. And then there's Angie, who's another landscape architect, part-time.
And does that work? Like, you obviously don't only install your own designs, and you don't only design your own installs. Like, there'll be jobs you design. You try to do that now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. We get a couple coming through our door, but mostly it's just what we design.
Yep. So what does that process look like? Do they come to you looking for design initially, or do they come to you looking for construction initially, and then you kind of go, well, before we can construct it, we need to design it, and this is the division, or is it just a hybrid of both of those?
It's a bit of that. We actually get sought out because people want someone to control the whole process.
Yep.
And that really is our selling point, that we will take care of everything, from start to finish, and we do everything in-house.
I probably need to jump back a bit before we go into that. If you just want to explain your roles within the business, obviously I know what they are, but just so that the people watching and listening can understand it. So, Nick, tell us, I guess, what your job title is, and then what you're responsible for. That might make more sense when I go into the next bits.
Yeah, sure. So predominantly now it's estimating and project coordination. So overlooking the projects as a whole and trying to coordinate the teams and the project manager below me.
Yep.
Through the process. Yeah, but predominantly it's estimating.
Yep. Okay, that's different, because I had this kind of vision of you with I guess you worked with the pens and you worked with the hammers kind of thing, and it kind of, I don't know if that's...
Kind of.
It still does. Yeah.
The estimating...
Metaphorically.
Crosses back. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no one's using pens anymore, are they? But crosses back. And you're responsible for the design side. And I guess and there's obviously business management inside all that, and staff management and human resources happening as well. You share those duties?
Yeah. So... basically, like you said, I kind of run the design side. Nick kind of runs the construction side, if you like. We come together to do the business development and business discussion. I do a lot of the admin type stuff, I guess, as far as the business goes.
Yep.
Nick does a lot more of the sort of business development and creating relationships.
Yep.
And, building capacity, that sort of stuff.
Do you enjoy that more? The people, like the BD.
Yes and no, getting into it a bit more. It's good. I do prefer to be on the tools, but I just don't have time for that anymore, and the other stuff that's needs to be done sort of takes away from that. So I definitely enjoy it. We also manufacture in-house, do a lot of metal work and stuff like that, so I spend a lot of time coordinate with the guys in the shed doing that sort of stuff as well. So
will you design that, and then, or do you both have a hand in the metalwork kind of thing, or that you've kind of got a vision that's done?
Peter and Adrian, Peter and Adrian
Yep.
draw it all up, and
and they're like, "Here, make this."
Can we make it?
Come on, man! Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lots of really curvaceous, hard stuff which doesn't bend easily,
but it bends easy on a screen.
That's right. That's right.
I can imagine. And so, with partnerships. I've obviously been in a partnership, and I probably never will be, except the one that my wife. But that partnership's kind of different to it's not different to a business partnership. That's probably unfair. You were obviously on your own for a period, but you've been in a partnership most of the time.
Initially, with Gavin, it was because Gavin was a phenomenal artist. I was a plants person.
Yep.
We had strengths which complemented each other. With Nick, I can't run a construction company without the guy with the builder's license.
Yep.
And the skills
you
and
just
expertise.
Without and the skill set that comes behind the license is really just symbolic of the experience. And so, what I guess talk me through. I guess I'd be interested in both of your opinions on the pros and cons of a partnership. Obviously, there'd be things on both sides of that. If you want to start, Nick, like, how do you feel it's benefited, and what's been challenging being in a partnership versus being on your own?
I think the pro is that you're not doing it on your own, and you've got someone to bounce ideas off with. You're not responsible for everything 100%. It's a split decisions on stuff, so that makes it a little bit easier. I mean, there's cons and pros to everything, but yeah, I think mostly it's for me it's a positive thing.
Yep. Yeah, I probably look at the partnership through a dirty lens, so I'm always looking for what's the cons, and I think probably having that you're both responsible for decisions, probably that's when it can become challenging, when you have a difference of opinion. But are you guys generally on the same page with things, or?
Yes, I guess there's a few points there. Firstly, we're generally on the same page. We're different enough people that we can talk directly to each other.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We don't pussyfoot around stuff.
Yep.
You can't in a business.
So if there's an issue, you just call it. You won't. No, you're not going to.
We'll have it.
Yeah, you won't bottle it up and.
Yeah.
No, just none of that. You can't. You really can't. You got to be open. there's a great advantage in having two people sort of put their heads towards things as well.
Yep.
It really is when the company gets of a size.
Yep.
You know, so generally we agree on most things, but if we don't, we talk it out.
Yeah, and you'll have to come up with a solution, obviously.
Well, we've worked out ways to talk it out as well. So if you disagree, then you have to come up with some specific points and prove why that you should be the other way. Yeah, come up with a solution.
Is that something you've had to develop? Like, obviously, that wasn't natural from day one. Like, have you, or you kind of, were you pretty clear at the start? Like, if we're going to be in a partnership,
I think it developed over time.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly discussed, but it's
just happened.
It just happened. Yeah, and we do have rules, loosely based rules around who gets to make decisions about things as well. So if it's a design consideration, you know, what colour is it? Where does it go? What does it look like? It comes to me, and Nick won't override that. If it's how it's built, how does it go together, and vice versa.
Well, that makes sense. I think even if you were employees in the same company, you can't. It would be unfair for you to go, well, that's a construction issue, but the design department are getting involved, and vice versa. We wouldn't, like, my team would be annoyed if that was happening with even me getting involved in, well, maybe media, but like I do every day.
Yeah.
So both of you are, well, have been or are presidents of associations. I'd love to hear your, I guess, the reasons why each of you got involved in something, and then, you know, what that means to you. Obviously, you're now retired. That sounds interesting. But retired president of the Master Landscape Association. Why you decided to do that, and then, you know, how that affected the business, and then, you know, would you look to do something like that again in some capacity moving forward, even if in another industry? And then obviously, if you can touch on your experience with yours.
So I joined the Master Landscapers because landscaping has given me so much for so long that I wanted to give something back. Became vice president pretty quickly and became president pretty well after a few tumultuous years after that.
Yep.
It does take a fair bit of time, as you're finding out.
Yeah,
I'm sure. So it does.
Well, it's. I feel like we're in the honeymoon period, but yeah, I'm already starting to see the challenges of trying to pull together, you know, 10 individuals or 11 or 12 that, you know, all have separate things that they're actually mainly focused on other than this. But yeah, it's
trying to get it all together. Yeah, there's a lot of people are busy.
Yeah,
so
and like, we're obviously new board leading into Christmas. It's going to be interesting, but yeah. So sorry, where
were we going with that?
You were obviously, it took a lot of time. Your 2 years, you were president pretty quickly.
4 years in total I was president.
So you did, so you were vice and then went into presidency.
Yes, and the only reason I'm not now is because I run my term. So
yeah, so the constitutional requirement that you can only do 4 years.
That's right. Yeah, and being you know, my whole focus was on making sure that we do adhere to the Constitution, you know, get procedures in place, get the whole thing tidied up and, you know, operating properly. I could hardly then turn around and say,
let's change it to suit me,
just so I can stay there. And I thought it was a good time to step down from the board. I'm also on the Connection to Country board for AILA, so I'll probably spend more time over there.
Yep. So you are continuing with another board?
Yes.
Yep. And what, I guess, you just make that work. It's interesting. A lot of people have said, how the hell do you have time to be on the board for the Master Landscapers, let alone be the president? I've kind of got this theory that, you know, I mean, it's not a new term, but, you know, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it.
That's exactly right.
You just made it work.
Just fit it in. Yeah. It's all about having the right people in the right places as well. So like Amanda is amazing.
Yeah.
Joanne and Celeste were both great.
Yep.
So as long as you've got people who are good and can support you, then you should be able to do it. Yeah.
So Nick, talk to us about your board position. Obviously, it's outside of the known industry, but how did that all come about?
So for a hobby, I race cars. Circuit XL is the category, and I just sort of I got into the promotion side of thing in the club early on, just to help out, set up events and raise money, and then that naturally just progressed into being voted in as the president. I guess you start telling people what to do and coming up with ideas. They sort of go, all right, well, you can have the job. So this is my third year now. This year I just was voted in a few weeks ago to go again.
Do you have a constitutional requirement to step down after a certain amount of years as well, or that's?
I have to check it, but I don't think so. No. So previous president was 5 years, I believe. So
yeah, I feel like, I guess 4 makes sense. Like it doesn't feel like an unreasonable amount of time. I think, you know, you can probably get caught up becoming, you know, almost like just going through the
Through
same
the
thing
motions,
each time.
yeah.
In saying that, I think, I look 12 months ahead from my term now, and I'm like, the things, it's not a lot of time to achieve, especially when you're dealing with government and, regulations that you don't have full control over. It's vastly different from being a director of a company where you go, all right, we're changing this now, and it's done. I don't know if you guys have talked much about what you were doing and what you are doing. Does it feel like it's the same problems you're trying to improve?
Definitely, I've sought advice from Pete a few times on certain issues they've had in the club or certain ways of going about things, and he's given me advice based on what he's done in his position, and So our club, our association wouldn't be anywhere like the level of MLSA. Obviously, it's a sporting car club, so
all volunteer based.
Yeah.
So there's no paid staff or anything. Yeah.
No,
but that was the same.
For
a long time.
Yeah. So we've talked about that as well. We're, Pete's given me some good advice, which has helped build the bank account at the club. Create some different things in the club which weren't there before. So it's been good.
So how many cars race in the category?
So in South Australia, I think we've got between 60 and 80 logbooked cars, and on average, you'll see between 40 to 50 cars out of the track each week.
At each meet.
Each meet.
And so South Australia only?
No, it's Australia wide.
So
it's the fastest. It's the fastest growing category in the country.
Yep.
What has been for the last sort of 7 years.
And you're the president of the Australia or the South Australia?
South Australia.
Yep. And then you'll go to national meetings?
Yes, I do. Yep. So they have it's called SARA, which is Circuit XL Racing Association.
Is there any risk that you'll run out of XLs?
No.
It's not a thing?
I think there was something like 1.5 million, 1.2 million imported.
Yep.
And I think it's still something like 400,000 registered.
There's a lot floating around, yeah.
Yeah.
And
we used to buy them for $200, but since COVID, now we have to pay a couple thousand for a spare.
I remember watching is it the HQ series and just thinking these cars are and even at the Velo, okay, I've got to start saying that properly. This weekend, seeing the Tiranas, and I'm looking at that going, that's a $300,000 Tirana. Like that shouldn't be out there. Obviously, there's a vastly different rarity with what you're doing.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So with our category, you should be able to get it. Ours is the most cost-effective. When we say cost-effective, it's still expensive to a degree, but as far as motorsport goes, it's pretty cheap.
Yep.
So you can build a car for about $10,000.
Okay.
It's a very basic car, but if you want to run up the front, it'll be a $30,000 to $40,000 investment.
So cheaper than Aussie racing, you reckon?
Yes. Yep.
That's crazy, eh?
Yep.
And you race all around the country?
Yep, you can race all over the country. State series here, there's 5 rounds, and then you got national series and stuff like that.
But if you want to place in those nationals, you have to get to enough rounds. You'd have to get to all your rounds, kind of thing.
Yeah. So in our category, we only have one national round a year, and that's the weekend where you have the national champion.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's different endurance events or events in each state throughout the year, which are key events, which you can go to. Sometimes on the supercars grid, which you've helped us out with before with Lawn Hub.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lawn Hub, synonymous with racing, eh? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
It was very random.
The sticker looked good on the Erebus car when you put the Lawn Hub on there.
That was a bit of a last minute thing, but I'm glad we were able to do it. I feel like the Waterpro got so much coverage.
Oh yeah,
like it was nuts, especially when they changed the logo. They put the Holden badge back on for that race.
Took all the photos.
Everything had Waterpro in it, but I think sometimes you can. It's like when you're buying a new car, you start seeing the same car everywhere. I think I saw my logo, but whether or not anyone else that's an irrigation user in the country actually recognised it, who knows? But I think you need to do those things for, I get the experience more than the return on investment or the direct return on investment, because it's so hard to measure.
Yeah.
So, what's the business look like at the moment? Like you've got one location. How big's your team? How have you kind of got it all structured? With these podcasts, I try to bring as much value to the listeners as possible to kind of get an understanding of what your business is doing, so that they might be able to take some, unless you don't want to give away any secrets, but take some. You've got 20 plus years experience in business ownership.
Yep.
And I'm guessing 10 or 15.
10, yeah.
Yep. So what's it look like at the moment?
So like I said, design side is myself, Adrian, and Angie part time.
Is that self-sufficient, that side, financially? Or it's hard to argue because you're doing the installs?
It's a little hard to argue, but we aim to at least break even, I suppose, because it's just a source of work.
I ask because we've got 3 designers here for irrigation. We do a lot of free design work that funnels into supply. So
yeah, and we don't offer anything for free, but then there's just the cost of being in the building, etc., etc. So that's the design side. The construction side, there's Nick, and then Jan, project manager, and then we've got site supervisors, and then we've got our teams. We're trying to get 3 teams together, but finding landscapers in Adelaide is impossible. Yeah. So we're trying.
So how many jobs would you have running at once?
Well, typically 2. Yeah. Ideally 3.
And you try not to have 4 or 5 and then have them just sitting there. Like you'll just go start a job and
finish.
Oh, we stack them up.
Yep.
Yeah. So design wise, the idea is we just have a very long lead time.
Yep. And what would that be at the moment? Like if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I want to get a design done now. When would my design be finished? And then when could you build it? If it was a $200,000 backyard."
I would finish the design pretty quickly. Sort of, if let's say there's a reasonable sized job, we'd probably be finishing that design at this point. I guess it'd be mid-January.
Yep.
Construction would maybe March, April, depending on if we can get more landscapers.
Yeah. Okay. And then a job like that could take 2 months or whatever, 3 months.
A couple of months.
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with that? With this, do you have an idea on where you think we're going to go with the shortage of landscapers in the short term? I know I'd be interested to know your long term thoughts as well, but do you see there being a contraction at all with some businesses, which makes available staff more readily available, or do you think we're going to have this problem for a while?
I think we've got a problem for a while, personally. I really do.
Yeah, I do as well, as finding new people to the industry, like younger people. But I think as times get tougher, I think we'll start seeing smaller businesses, the 1-man bands, 2-man bands, starting to sort of look for work elsewhere, and they'll probably come to companies like ourselves for security.
I've seen a little bit of that already in the last month.
Really?
Yep. Okay. Just a little bit, but people that maybe started up during the boom and left their employment, became a landscaper. It looked like it was going to be a different lifestyle than it is, and then they've gone, you know what, I've been contracting to this company anyway. They go, you know what, why don't you just become an employee of the company and just, you don't have to worry about all the other stuff anymore. You can see your kids at night. Yep. You've got weekends back.
It's a tough gig, really. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like it's almost like having children. You kind of just go, yeah, I'm going to have kids. And you know all the positives.
Yeah.
And then no one talks to you about all the stupid shit that happens. I think business ownership's a bit like that, and you're like, oh, okay, so I have to deal with that too?
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, there's going to be no different amount of work. That'll just be just a shuffle of, if your theory is that the smaller ones do shut down, then they'll just move into employment. Obviously, there'll still be the same amount of work out there. Do you think, so you don't think there's going to be any work shortage in the coming 12 to 18 months? Do you feel like there's, or do you think that...
What we've been through in the past, what I've seen in the industry in the last 15 years, I think we've seen some pretty bad times. I think where we're marketed in the industry, we should be fine.
Yep.
We have consciously done that.
As in targeted, I guess, government or high-end or schools or whatever, or...
It's high-end residential.
Yep. With the vision being that the high-end residential customers are going to do their backyard with or without a global financial meltdown.
Yeah, well, like our clients, what anaesthetists, lawyers, doctors,
they're going to keep
business
working.
owners and stuff like that. They're always working.
There's always people with money.
Yeah.
Did you have a hiccup when we first had the pandemic pause, where they said, did you have clients pausing or cancelling contracts? Originally when everyone was stopping, did you have much of that?
We had one project, yeah.
3 actually.
3, yeah.
3 in total.
Yeah.
3 people lost their jobs, so they said we've got to put it on hold.
Yeah.
Those 3 people then got better jobs and their budgets increased.
So that works that well.
It was
and it was one due to access because it was through a aged care facility or something.
Oh yes, yeah that one.
So that's
understandable.
Yeah, because I think, I guess no one really knows, but I kind of think like, well, if what's been the worst period in the last 15 years? You said you kind of seen it come and go. We've obviously had the whatever our impact of GFC was in 08, 09, drought 06, 07. I mean, that's probably not impacting landscaping as much as irrigation. Do you feel like So I guess, what are you saying, that kind of anything that's happened before is not going to be any worse than what you've...
COVID was a pretty serious event, I think, for our industry.
Yep.
And we managed to pull through that pretty good.
Yep.
So I think we actually even got busier.
Definitely got busier.
We went from 6 months to sort of 18 months.
I feel like that's why there's a shortage of stuff, right? Like, people weren't travelling, they were spending their money on their backyards.
Correct.
Interest rates were super low.
And a lot of companies in the same position,
Yeah, I feel like my view on it is that it probably is going to contract, and that there's going to be some landscape companies go broke because there'll be less work because people have less money. I agree with what you're saying, that it probably won't be your customers, obviously, lawyers and doctors and dentists, but business owners maybe, like during that period when the start of COVID, when you had to stand down staff, and you're like, well, are we going to have money coming in? I think a lot of business owners then went, just stop spending. It didn't seem to last long. Like you were saying, that those people got new jobs. I feel like as soon as the government came in and said, here's some support packages, everyone went, oh, okay, yep, we've got money. I just feel like everything kind of takes its natural level eventually, and I feel like we're above where we should be.
I agree. And
then it will contract, and I don't know if you're going to have as much trouble finding staff in 6 months as you think you might. I think you might find that there's going to be a lot of people looking for work. I hope. Well, that's horrible, because the reality is, if that happens, it means that the industry is contracted and some people have gone bankrupt, which is not nice, because that will impact me. But I just feel like as interest rates are kind of going from 2 to 7 or 2 to 6, there's going to be less. That's the idea behind that, right?
Yeah.
To reduce that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So do you have a design style? Like, I look at your designs, like a lot of times I can tell that it's come from you. Like, I can see it. Like, I feel like it's quite different to what you see in South Australia, if not Australia. How would you describe your style, and do you have a style, or is it client driven?
It's client and site driven, but we don't do boring, mundane, it's been done before design work. Everything we do is meant to be interesting. That's the whole point.
Like art.
Well, yeah. I mean, design is artistic, but it's not art in my mind. It's design. But
or architecture.
Yeah, or architecture. But we just simply won't do the standard.
Yep.
We just don't do it, and we don't want to do it.
Yep.
And we're not interested, and our clients aren't interested.
So if a client came to you with vanilla, you're just like, look, I think there's probably other firms for you, or you try and put some sprinkles on top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a case of saying, look, why am I here?
Yeah.
If you want me to do the same thing that's in your head, then why engage me?
You don't need it. Yeah.
So we try and we'll just make something a bit different.
And do your team go out and have those consults, or do you lead that? Do you still meet with every client?
It's mostly me.
And so it's your concept, and will they be involved? Like, will they come out to the meetings, or you just go, look, this is what we need drawn, and then...
Oh, no. So it's myself and Adrian are the two people that do the lion's share of the design work.
Yep.
Adrian does go and meet clients and just run whole projects. I will still see most of the clients, and then Adrian will go from design through to detailed drawings quite happily by himself. He's a very, very, very skilled individual.
And are you drawing them in CAD or Vectorworks or one of those? SketchUp. No shit. So everything's all SketchUp. Mm-hmm. Is that still free?
No.
There's paid versions?
Yeah.
Or there's free versions, but you have to use a paid version for what you're doing?
Yeah. So we use SketchUp, and then that goes into Twinmotion for 3D renderings.
And do you do your 3D renders, or you get them done?
No, we do them. You
do them all? Mm-hmm. So you can do a fly-through or a walkthrough or whatever, and show people what they're expecting. That's crazy. I didn't know SketchUp was that. I know a lot of people are using it, but I just had this impression that it was predominantly CAD-driven, and then SketchUp might have been used for a presentation or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. We've got Vectorworks as well, and we don't use it anymore.
Would you be the exception or the rule when it comes to that? Like, do you think everyone's kind of designing that way, or you're in it out on your own? Or do you even know what other people are doing?
I don't know enough.
Yep.
I do know some people that work entirely in SketchUp, several actually.
Yep.
And I do know some people that work in Vectorworks, and I can see the difference in the drawings.
Yeah.
You just things like Vectorworks is really the only other platform which is commonly used, I guess.
Like above the minimum level of what you'd need to do that kind of work.
Yeah, I guess, and it's shocking to model in. So it's it's not as flexible as SketchUp, that's for sure. Yeah, it has a lot of benefits, but.
And when that gets into your hands, is that scaled and you can build straight from that, or do what's the process? Like you said, you've done that design, they've accepted it, that gets handed to Nick and Nick's team, or yep, and scaled.
Yep, construction plans all scaled,
Yep.
selections all done. So if we go back a bit, it was sort of comes through the estimating first. So we
Yep.
have QA come through, which is quantities of everything.
Yep.
And then that's when we'll sort of hash out whether this can be built or if it's too expensive. Or
Try and get some more money out of the
you know,
clients.
Oh, okay, yeah.
because
because
they'll give it to me and go, this is the budget, and then
Architects,
put the plans on my table. And they go, budget's X amount. You
Yep.
just look at it and go,
No,
it's double that, Pete.
Yep.
Yes, but it's
every
not-
time.
You just live in this like happy design land. Architecture land.
He just wants to look good,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So, but it's true. It's every single time. Every time we just make something think that looks awesome. The client thinks that looks awesome. Give it to Nick and go.
Does that cause problems with the clients? Like when they're like, "Look, we told you it was $500,000 and you've done this. Like we told you. Why'd you?" So you got us all excited, or do you just go, "Well, just go find another $200,000. Come on, man!" Like
It depends on the client.
yeah, and that's for you to manage. Or
Yep,
for
that's for me to manage. Yeah, no. I've had clients just recently. They had a $50,000 budget and their construction was $270,000.
Yep. Okay.
Because we put it in front of them and they go, "Oh my god, I want
That's
it."
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 50 was just an arbitrary number. Like
Well, people have things in their head.
yeah.
But on the other hand, if I went back to them with that and they have $50,000 and they've only got $50,000, then fair enough. Then it's on me to make that work.
Yep.
And I just start taking stuff out.
Yep. So what would you say that you'll design to the best, like I guess to the what you think's the best design, and then take stuff off?
Depends again on the client. I mean, we've got a client currently. He said they've got $100,000 and that's it.
Yep.
And then so we will design what we think is a good solution, cost it, start taking stuff out, and come back to him.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
He won't see they won't see the extreme design. They'll just see the design that meets the
Oh,
budget.
they will.
They will.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you can't cost. It's the designer's conundrum. You can't cost it until you've designed it and got it approved.
Yeah.
And you can't. So we have an idea of what it's going to cost, but
Yep.
we need to show it to the client so they at least know they like it before we start spending all the time
Yeah.
and effort costing it.
And how deep into the design phase are you going before you start showing clients? I've heard of people kind of just doing hand sketches. Is this what you want? No color. Is this what you want? Add color. Do you just go, drop the whole?
We drop the whole.
There, here you go.
Yeah.
Here's everything's fully polished.
Yep.
That
So
would-
that's again different approaches. So
Yep.
I know some people just kind of put together a mood board, if
Yeah.
you like, but no, we go the whole hog and say this is exactly what we're thinking.
Yep.
And sometimes, most of the time, that's been successful.
Having 3D renders is amazing. Like even just, I found if one of the, like when we got stuff done, if I've got a vision but my wife doesn't understand it, and I've said this is what I want done, and you've got the 3D render, and she can go, oh no, that's okay, I understand what you're getting at, I don't like it, can we change this? It's, once it's built,
Yeah. 3D imagery is awesome.
yeah. So at what point I'm guessing Nick gets introduced to the client then, or do you not? Does sometimes Nick's not even, it goes straight to project manager, or like?
At sometimes,
Yep.
can go straight through to construction manager. Yep.
Yep. And you just get involved if you need to.
Yeah. So sort of looking over at a higher level.
Yep.
Yep.
And is there I guess if you had unlimited skilled staff available, where would you cap out? Like, have you got an idea of what you want the business to look like at its peak from a, productivity and profitability standpoint? Like,
I think 3 teams. So I think we've discussed it. I think 3 teams is the key position for us in the
is that
market
3
we're in.
2s or 3 3s?
3 4s.
3 4s. You like to run 4. The 4 makes sense. So there's obviously someone in charge, and then 3.
Yep.
Typically an apprentice on each site.
Okay.
And then the site supervisor and the rest of the team.
Yep. And then that's helping funnel apprentices into the industry and into your business.
Into business, yeah.
Yep.
Which are both important. Obviously, you care about the industry, but you care more about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But that works in parallel.
Hmm.
And so, obviously, probably during the early days of railways, I remember you were doing a job at a school. Is that the kind of work that you're not doing as much, or if that comes up, you'll take commercial work if it fits the business? If it's not race to the bottom from a price standpoint.
Early on, we did a lot of commercial, didn't we? We did a lot of schools. And Pete does a lot of master plans for schools, Catholic schools,
Yep.
Catholic ed. So the contractors, they'd have a couple of quotes submitted, and they'd be like, well, we need a third one. Can you guys put a quote in just so
Yeah.
we've got a comparison? And it's like, oh, hang on, you've got the job.
And you're like, oops.
Yeah. So early on, we did a bit of that. probably one of the biggest issues we've had with the job has been a commercial. Cost us a lot of money, making the wrong decision, thinking that we had to follow certain directive when we didn't, just being naive to the commercial contract admin.
Yep.
So we learned our lesson and decided we weren't going to do as much. But then now we're selective with it. We haven't done one for a couple of years, but
We've got one coming up, though.
we got one coming up, yeah.
So
But Marcellin was the project,
Yeah.
I think, when I spoke to you.
Yeah.
That was a great project, yeah.
But if you get burnt, it's kind of interesting because you see some people that love commercial and that's all they ever want to do, and then they stay away from residential because of the emotions that can sometimes be involved in a residential landscape. But then you've got the other side of the commercial side. It's not emotional, but it's litigious, I guess, and it can be very much contract. This is what it says, and if you haven't done it, then that's your problem.
It is, yeah. There's lots of contract admin. There's lots of committees, and the designs invariably get watered down. So there's a lot more rewarding, I find, at least in the residential sphere.
Well, I've seen it commercially where I can't even think of the word or the term, but you basically commercial landscapers find ways to change the design to make it cost less.
Yeah, well, I guess that's that's part of the directive for actually making some money.
Yeah, getting the job under budget and splitting the profit.
And also, I mean, you present ideas to what's a great saying that a racehorse designed by a committee ends up being a camel. There's no emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
So people will change things according to budgets, and landscaping's always at the end.
Yep.
So when they've done the build, and then the build's got all the overruns, and they'll just put a red pen through things.
Yeah. Do you do? I mean, do you do construction to a point of I guess rooms or pergolas or anything within what you're doing? Or
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So everything outside of the walls of a house? Are you guys licensed to build houses?
No,
Not
yet.
Yep.
But that's the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, well, plans extensions. We want to be a lifestyle company.
House stick or something?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yep. And so are you working through that process or?
Yeah, so when I get time every sort of 6 months, I'm back in at CBS, Business Consumer Affairs, upgrading the license.
Yeah, okay.
Adding things to it. So
you'll go learn something or do something and then...
Well, I just
go through the
research on my
process.
own and do my own sort of training and then go in there. Well, the experience we've had over the years, it's only just learning the specifics about it, and you can sort of get it added to your license quite easily.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
So the one we're going for, which I'll be going for over the next sort of couple of years, will be commercial 1 to 10. So we could do extensions and potentially build.
Yeah, okay. And then what would that... you just kind of would be with a client, you're like, well, we can do that too. Like if you're doing that, well, would you want us to just do the whole lot?
Yeah, we'll be targeting that market.
Yep. So pool house or extension.
Yeah.
Like is it like the prospect villa kind of push back into the backyard, but build the room and the backyard?
Yeah, take the back of the house off. There's a couple of companies doing it already.
Yep.
I mean, Josh does, I think, as well.
I'm pretty sure he's licensed to build up. I don't know if it's 2-story, but yeah, he went at that pretty hard, pretty early. And it's really interesting, and this isn't the forum for it, but the licensing side of things, I still don't understand fully, and I need to kind of just get someone to sit me down and go, look, these are all the pieces. But it feels like it would be easier for a landscaper to go get a license to build a house, and then just do landscaping.
Well, it is a license to. I mean, the builder's license categories we've got to adhere to.
Yeah.
Are really all built around. Building homes.
But the process of getting a builder's license seems more, I don't know, like a bitumised road, whereas the landscape license is like dirt track through bush, kind of like
it's wild.
Go pick up a couple more. It's like almost like, I don't know, Super Mario, and you're just collecting coins, hoping to get to the other end. And,
that's right. Yeah.
Don't get killed on the way with one of your 3 lives.
It's bonkers.
Yeah.
And it's difficult going in there for certain stuff because they don't know how to categorise what you want to do for your licence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because we are restricted. Landscape industries are restricted builder's licence.
Yeah. With the more categories than any other restricted builder's licence.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's a descriptive category, so it has to describe the whole. There's no option to have a description underneath the heading, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, you can't just have stormwater and then explain it.
Yeah, so
it's
it has to be stormwater.
Yep.
Which is why we now have the tiling limited to outside areas, etc.
Because you can't have just had tiling, because that would indicate you could go inside.
Yep. That's right. So stone walling, for example, is very hard to get because then as soon as you've got a stone walling license, you can go build a house
out of stone, but not bricks.
Correct.
That's right. Yeah. So the system is interesting in South
It's
Australia.
gonna be very interesting when I get in there, and I'll be like, that doesn't make sense, and they're like, that's how it is. I'm like, I don't like it.
Sense.
So a builder gets a builder's license, gets one card. So he's a builder.
And what single story, whatever
the
it is.
classification is.
Yeah.
Landscaper, I've got 4 cards.
Yep.
And every time I get more added on, they send me a new card with. So, but look at the back of the card. The list
doesn't
just
even
continues across the 4 cards.
Well, I think Amanda was saying 24. Is it 20? Like 20,
Somewhere in there,
24 subcategories, but you're only allowed to apply for 5 at a time.
Yep.
Maximum now,
And you won't get 5 at once.
and it's 8 months lead time on licensing processing because it's busy, and you'll never get 5.
It's about
You might
2.
get
It's
4 or
about 2
3.
months. Yeah.
Have you ever got everyone you've gone for?
No, that they'll always. It's
So
about
it's pull one.
75% of what you apply for. They'll give you. So you
Yeah.
make it clear at the start which one you really want. Yeah.
That seems like it was just a decision for the sake of it.
Yeah,
Like
it
even
is.
if you've done everything you need to, they're like, well, we don't like to give it all at once. We like to keep you keen. Come back next time.
Yeah. Well, again, we're guessing at that, but it seems
Yeah.
that's what the case is.
Yeah. I think I'm really keen to get my teeth into it because I'm not a landscaper and I don't need a license. So I'll make as much noise as I want without the fear of being almost like.
Look, we should also say that CBS are really accommodating.
Yeah.
So every time we've gone to them and said, we've got an issue here, this doesn't quite fit, they've addressed it.
Yep. They're obviously restricted by the rules and regulations that they have to adhere to. They're not just. It's back to the whole committee thing. They're not just sitting in their own building and going, "Yep, we've changed it." There you go. Like it has to go through a process, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's challenging. So if I've got a question here, kind of keen to understand your, advice to young landscapers, both that want to get into landscaping and then the landscapers that want to run their own landscaping business. If you can kind of give me yours, I don't know. You could probably give both sides, but from the licensing standpoint, what advice would you give to someone if they don't have any licensing at the moment, but they want to start their own business?
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of probably answer all those questions as best as you can.
This again is the $1 million question. You can't really get a license unless you can prove you've done the work.
Yeah.
And you can't do the work without a license.
Yeah.
So ideally, you work with somebody else, prove that you can do it. Goodness sake, don't start working without a license if you can avoid it, because the client doesn't have to pay you. It's the first point.
I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't realise is that if you're not licensed, they don't legally have to pay you, and you've got no recourse.
Yeah, and there's no insurances either.
Yeah.
So it all falls on your shoulders if something goes wrong.
Yep.
And that can take out, your livelihood, your life, take your house.
Yep.
So it's critically important, obviously, to protect yourself. The first point, and then as far as business structure goes, then don't just get started. Sit, think about it, work out costs, work out where you want to go, get a plan.
Yep.
It's something you see more often than not in the landscaping industry is people just hitch a trailer and start going.
Yeah. Yep. No business plan.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I don't know where people. I mean, there's obviously that much information on the internet. I've done some budgeting videos just to try and help out, but I don't think that there's a shortage of available information. If you actually genuinely looked for an hour, you'd find information on how to do a budget or a business plan or whatever. Plus, there's obviously Business SA and kind of other industry bodies that can help with that. Obviously, design's completely different. If someone wanted to get into landscape architecture, that's you're going to uni.
You're going to uni. Yeah. But there's landscape design through TAFE.
Yep.
And there's no legalities around it.
Yep. So you could just start being a landscape designer and don't even go to TAFE.
Yep. You could. Anyone can.
But there is legalities around throwing architect on your
Yes.
email signature.
Yeah, you need to be registered. Yep. Through ALA.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, what if you weren't?
And you put architecture on the end? I don't know. I guess at some point someone might just tap you on the shoulder. I don't know.
Can you stop doing that? No.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the recourse is.
Yeah, I feel like it's an industry that's like kind of it's created. Pretty much what I guess the master landscapers are trying to achieve is going, well, we will regulate our own industry. But if someone goes, well, I'm going to call myself one anyway, like, oh, okay. Well, we're going to go tell the police.
Well, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. What's your perspective on I guess, you've had your own business contracting. You've probably gone through that pathway that we're kind of describing. What advice would you give to both people that are looking to get into the industry and then obviously people that are looking to start their own business in the industry?
Yeah, so I would, if you're looking at becoming a landscaper or construction, I would try and focus on one element of the industry. So if you're learning at the start, maybe try and master paving or something like that and get your foot in the door. Don't try and take on too much straight away. And then slowly work at it. Yeah, don't sort of throw yourself in the deep end.
Yep.
Become a master of each thing as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's in this world we live in now, it can be quite easy to go, well, I want to be a landscaper and I want to learn it all in 2 months. But it's not physically possible, obviously, but it's also pretty disrespectful to the guys that have done, 5 to 10 years to get to the point of knowing all those little 0.1%ers of what can go wrong and what needs to be done.
And once you got that, like Pete said, it's hard to get the licensing without having the experience, and you can't really do the work without having a license. So it's making connections in the industry with people that have those licenses, which can guide you and maybe supervise you on a project to help you get those licenses.
How does that work? So you the only way to get that experience is to work under someone that's licensed to do it.
Yep.
And then use that as an example of work that you've done.
Yep.
Yep. And that's the legal way to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
However, so if you go to CBS with a whole body of work and say, look, I need a license, this is what I'm doing, they don't immediately say, well, you've been working on license, they'll try to help you.
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess to have almost a register of who's doing the work and whether or not they've got the skills to do it. The way you got there is less concerning than the fact that you actually got there.
And you're applying for a license.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying, that they want you licensed. They want you to,
absolutely they do.
So don't be afraid to, don't feel like you're going to go, we do that with, like say get a safety audit of the business, right? And I used to worry, like, if we get a safety audit, what if there's problems and they report us? It's like, no, they don't. That's not the idea. They want, we need to find problems so we can fix them. It's not about they're not going to ring up, work safe and go, come and shut this business down. They're going to say, these guys are actively trying to improve things.
They
so
really
the
appreciate it.
Yeah, more. And then you seem to be doing the right thing, and they're more likely to work with you. I should do another podcast with Sam Cattell, actually. I think that there's probably another, fresh amount of information that's probably there.
Things have changed recently as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be good too. And it's, it is critically important.
So if you are a licensed landscaper now, there's a chance, like obviously this is predominantly going to be listened to by landscapers and probably South Australian ones. It would be what your advice to make sure you're covered for everything. Like, it's changed.
Yep. Look, they do change things relatively frequently, especially with us trying to. Well, when I say us, you trying to push from the master landscaper.
You'll do that for another year or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Answer the question.
You're allowed to.
So it's because things change. They don't exactly send out a memo to everyone.
Yeah,
you've got. It's up to you to be current.
Well, it's like the law. It's like legislation around driving laws. The burden's on you to know the laws if you're going to drive. It's the same with landscaping, right? If you're going to choose to be a landscaper, the burden's on you to stay across things.
So just
noisy.
Just constantly try and improve your license and stay up to date.
Yeah,
and because you're always going to be faced with new parts of a project that you probably think, oh, geez, I'm not licensed for that. Just if you constantly try and build capacity. Really.
This is something that I've thought about recently. It's probably good for everyone to hear the answer. So obviously there's as with the master landscapers, if you're a member, the association will look at whether or not you're licensed to have a license. But then obviously there's being licensed to do these things, but then you might not be licensed to do those things. If that comes up in a job, what would a landscaper do? Like, you've got stuff that's not on your license. Can you subcontract that to someone that is licensed?
You can, but you can't take payment for it.
So they have to charge the client direct.
Yes.
Yep.
And you just manage it and charge a management. You can't even really charge a management fee, can you? Kind of just.
No, you're not allowed to. So you can. So let's take pools for example. That's pretty common.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of landscapers will do landscaping, which includes a pool.
Yep.
And they simply won't touch it because you're not licensed for it. So again, the contractor needs to go straight through the client, and then you're covered. It's fine.
Yep. So the pool builder builds directly for the client.
Yep.
And then if you're licensed to do the coping or the outdoor tiling or whatever, then that's fine.
You can do that. Yep.
That makes sense. But I don't think that's being done perfectly. Not that I have any evidence, but it feels like people are going, no, I'll organise it all, slap your margin on it, and
happens a lot. But then you're in trouble again.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about something like a pool, got $100,000 or so. If that goes wrong and you've taken the money for it, then you're liable.
Yeah, for the whole thing. There's a insurance, like obviously when you build a house you pay insurance as a business.
Yep.
To the public indemnity or whatever that is. You guys would do that for landscaping as well, that's the thing.
Builder's indemnity?
Yeah. Yep. So if anything went wrong over 12 or 15 grand or whatever it is.
Yeah, so it's got to just hit a few criteria. Needs council approval over 12, I think it's 12 and a half maybe.
Okay.
12 and a half, I can't remember. Then you'll need insurance.
So there's a lot of work you guys could do that doesn't require council approval.
Yeah, loads.
That could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't have that insurance.
Yep.
Do you think that's a risk there? Like, is that something need to be changed there, or that's just kind of like, consumer beware?
Well, if they bought in, for example, that you need to get builders indemnity insurance for all landscaping, then there's a restriction in the fact that you can only get a certain amount of builders indemnity insurance per year. So then immediately through legislation, you'd be stopped work. You wouldn't be able to work.
What's the so there's when you say there's a limit to how much builders indemnity you could get per year? Is that a thing in housing as well?
Yeah, and it's a big problem.
What are we talking? Like 10 million?
Depends on your company.
Okay.
So they'll set a limit. So you're allowed to build up to $10 million worth of homes this year, and that's it.
So you got to grow slow, or grow at the pace that their risk appetite's in line with.
Ridiculous. It was a laborious application, wasn't it?
Oh,
it was horrendous. Yeah.
It really is. And so you got a private company, only one you're allowed to go through.
Yep.
Restricting the amount of work you can do. It's not right.
But then you don't really have insurance anyway, do you? We're liable regardless of the outcome. So the insurance doesn't really cover us. Yeah.
But it's a government regulated insurance that you have to have
through a private company.
And there's only one provider.
There's one option. Yep.
I want to start that insurance company.
Yeah.
Over the years, obviously, you've been involved with the, display gardens, and I'm not. I've seen, memory one, and then I don't know if you've done any open gardens or if any of your gardens have been in the open garden scheme. Talk to me about what your thoughts are around that and the importance, or whether or not it's even important for that to be happening, and what the benefits are to a company if they get involved, and then obviously the industry. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So there's the South Australian Landscape Festival through Master Landscapers. That is awesome. It's fantastic. It's kind of a mirror of the Garden Design Festival in Melbourne. Mm-hmm. It's an awesome festival, and we got a lot of work from it. We still are. 2 years later, it's still getting a lot of leads through that. So that was great, both to be involved in the festival and for generating work. Then there's things like display gardens, home shows. We have not really had any success with that. There a lot of effort, quite a lot of money, and they haven't really returned anything for us, at least.
Do you think that there would be companies that would be better suited to that home show market? Like, do you think that maybe that your work might be too high end for that?
Yes.
And that it's probably more in line with a different kind of business.
Selling flowers and pots and stuff. I think that's what.
But even from a landscaping standpoint, say it was, I don't know, examples of sand laid pavers and like Luton retaining walls and that kind of thing. Is that more maybe what people are looking for?
It's just
finished building their home and they need their driveway and paving out.
Yeah, I mean, if we went to MIFCAS, for example, and exhibited there, that might suit us. But
is that in your mind? Is that on a?
Oh yeah, we've thought about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But it's probably $100,000.
Yeah.
So it's quite an expense.
That's like 3 XLs.
Yeah.
They got to upgrade.
Yeah. We're going over there again in March. I'm not sure if they're aware, but it's on the same weekend as the Formula One.
Yeah, right.
Which is super inconvenient for anyone who wants to get accommodation in Melbourne over that period.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to it. I think this year will be good. But I mean, you guys have got plenty of time.
Yeah, we can just do that in the spare time.
More in 10 years.
Yeah.
Or in 5 years, if that's something that matters. They do like a balcony garden thing as well. It's too small for you to kind of.
Yeah, no, we'd want to go into it properly.
Your business, it probably would. Yeah, it would. You'd go, hang on, what Yardstick doing a balcony?
Yeah, it doesn't really suit us.
Yeah,
but if you do well, like Nathan Burkett, for example, then that will feed your business for many years.
Yeah, you can see the names that are there. And then do it, and that becomes You become a national architect. Then not a South Australian or Victorian architect. What are your thoughts? Like the open gardens and the the home shows you on the same page.
Pretty much same page. I think the SA Garden Festival, is that the one we?
South Australian Landscape
That's
Festival. Yeah.
That's twice every 2 years.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the best by far marketing we've done since we've been in business, I believe.
It's awesome.
And you don't have to do anything.
It's just our gardens.
You got to make it look nice,
tidy 'em up a bit.
but it's not like you go to the show and build kill yourself for 4 days or 5 days.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Building display gardens is pretty intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some people are cut out like Tim Harper just froths around it. He's like just loves being part of it, and you can see the guys at Mifkus that are just like they look forward to it. But
it's good fun. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Really good fun. But we built the display gardens for the backstage gardens for WOMAD I did that for 8 years.
Yep.
And it's really, really good fun. You got complete freedom.
Yep. And you get to
meet
meet people, like new people that you haven't met before. And I see sometimes with Mifkus as well, they'll have landscapers come over and help. Like you could go over and help.
Yep.
I think that would be an interesting experience, especially to get a taste of what it's like. You know,
we're going to do it 1 year, but it'd be 12 months of building it in our shed.
Yeah, and then you take most of it
take
over.
all our guys, truck it over,
Yep.
And then put it together. Yeah.
Pete's got a few ideas, I think, already on paper. So
Yeah, I've had a few ideas for a long time. But
do you think those ideas are timeless for the design, or would you have to get them in now?
You'd probably tweak them.
Yep.
Yeah.
To
Also,
suit.
you've got to be careful as well. Like I said, our design style is not standard. If you saw the last home show install, it was way out there, and that's why we don't win.
Because it's not for everyone.
Because it's not for everyone.
Or it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't sit in line with societal's normal box. Like
it's not your standard magazine sort of garden. I mean,
which people are used to.
Yeah.
It's not so much whether or not they don't like it or do like it. It's just in line with what they're used to.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people are quite conservative. So
would it be fair to say if you went to Mifkus and wanted to meddle, you'd almost have to tone it down a bit?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We spoke to one of the designers there. We did some filming the first time we went over, and he was saying you actually have to remember that the people are looking at the garden from a metre below where they're actually, like, a lot of them are raised.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the pergola heights get shortened because otherwise it would look really weird from where they stand, and there's obviously so many different things to take into account around things like that, plant health and
and most of the gardens are viewed from the outside. You don't get into them.
No.
So somehow gardens are a lot about it, feeling experience. So you got to try and sort of project that.
Yeah.
So it's an entirely different design.
So what's your, and it's hard asking both of you the same question and then you're like, that makes sense. So actually I might get you to answer this first. What's your vision and your desire for the industry? Like, obviously it's an industry that you've been part of for most of your adult life. Actually firstly, I might ask you this first. If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? If you could choose to do any job in the world.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Like, and you've got the licensing and skills to do it. Doctor, dentist, pilot, astronaut.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. I don't know.
Like, you didn't grow up thinking, I want to be a lawyer, and then
no,
got
not at
kicked
all.
out of school. Like,
no. Probably an athlete, to be honest with you. But I had injuries as a kid that prevented me from doing that. But I would have probably spent a lot more time and focus on taking the next level in sport if it was possible.
Well, it is possible. This is like you get to choose.
Yeah, so it would be sport. So
what sport?
Well, I was a cyclist, so it'd probably be cycling. Yeah, or I would later life motorsport, but cycling, soccer. Yeah.
If you could drive in any motorsport category and you'd had the money and the support and the skill, what would you choose?
It'd be hard to go past the V8 where you were on the weekend.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've had the privilege of driving one, and that was amazing. So it would be that. Yeah.
What would you do? Are you, like, if you could change your job for anything in the world?
Yeah,
you ever thought about it?
No,
because
I did.
You'd be a professional climber,
rock star,
professional rock climber, traveling the world.
That'd be a tough gig.
Free climber.
That would be a tough gig.
That crazy dude that just
Alex Holton.
Just climbs.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
No,
no. Security ropes is quite nice. I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
I am doing my dream job, so it's a little hard to think past that at the moment, at least. I guess ideally, I'd really be growing my own food and lying in a hammock.
Yep.
It'd be the
tropical
no country. Job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that a little bit. Like, we kind of got caught up in this cycle of we have to work, but then You ever heard that story about the guy that goes out fishing, catches one fish, comes back, eats it, and then just lies on the beach and drinks wine with his family, and then, the kind of corporate come in and they're like, why are you only catching one fish? If you get some nets, you can catch like all these fish. And he's like, and then what? And he's like, well, then you can, sell the fish and then you make lots of money. He's like, and then what? And he's like, then you could just basically buy some wine and chill on a beach for the rest of your life. And he's like,
that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I kind of feel like we get into these traps.
We do.
So you don't struggle getting up to do what you do every day. You love it. Still,
yeah,
you're still in love with it.
Yeah.
The same.
Yep. It has its days.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's less in love with it.
Yeah.
No, everything has its days.
No, I still love that. I love the industry. I love doing it. I wouldn't do anything else. But yeah, it has its days.
Yep.
Yeah. And you got your favourite things to do, and you got your least favourite things to do. But they've all got to be done.
That's why it's called work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the vision? Like, what would you like to see come from the industry in the 5 years or 10 years that follow now? And in your business as well.
Well, for me, regulation.
Yeah,
that's the
it's
big
massive.
Thing. I would love to see the landscape industry be cleaned up. I guess have the same level of respect as builders.
And the reality is that is 5 to 10 years. It's not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a cultural shift. It's not going to happen. You wouldn't go and get just anyone to come and do your wiring for your house, but you would just go get anyone to come and do your landscaping.
Yeah.
Public doesn't understand that landscaping is a licensed trade.
Yeah.
Once all that's resolved, then firstly, the industry would be more buoyant, and secondly, we'll get a lot more respect. Landscapers still get treated like the guys that come and roll the lawn out at the end of the job.
Yeah.
People just don't understand the scale. And we've spoken to ministers and lots of government officials; they still don't understand what we do.
Yep. Do you worry about that? Like, does it get on your mind, like the disrespect? Like
it irritates me. Yeah.
Do you feel like that? Or less?
It doesn't so much irritate me, no, as much. As I see a different side of the industry of what we do. So Pete's at the forefront of other things, but no, it doesn't as much.
You're not concerned about other people's opinions about it?
No.
I'm concerned about other people's opinions about our industry in general. I mean, landscaping is the most complex construction industry that there is because it covers so many different...
It concerns me not for... Like, I'm not a landscaper, so it's not around a lack of respect for an individual, I think. And I think this is probably, you might agree, it's around what comes after that. It's around the once you do get that respect, it's around the interest from government around regulation. It's around the money that you can afford to be able to pay the people that are doing it, and then it's that the funnel of staff that come through because they go home and say, I'm going to be a landscaper, and their parents are like, oh, we're so proud of you. Like, that's a tough thing to do. Like, you're going to be just like your uncle who did that, and look what he built, that kind of stuff. It's not so much that, I guess, I think because in watching you, it's not been so much around you wanting to be respected as a landscaper.
Not
it's around you wanting what the industry deserves. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I want it to be a respected trade. But people, like you said, people say, that's great, become a landscaper, it's awesome, as opposed to parents trying to dissuade their kids.
Yeah, so they'll come home and say, I want to be a landscaper, and they're like, well, have you looked at some other not even, I say trades, but they don't even think it's a trade. They're like, what about getting a trade?
Yeah, what about getting a trade?
I still got family members that think we prune hedges and mow lawns.
Yeah.
So it's about, I'd say we need to get the title recognised on this side of the industry.
It's a challenging balance, and you've obviously seen it, and you're very aware of it, that kind of like the graph of the money available to spend on doing that, and then what you can do with the money, and it's just kind of like this, you're kind of slowly climbing up this ladder of going, well, we've got a bit more money, let's advocate a bit more, or we've got a little bit more money, let's advocate some more.
Just looking from out, I think the training industry as well, like the TAFEs and stuff like that, need to standardise their coursing and their qualifications. So like Pete's talking about the licensing, for that to get respect, because every year it seems to change. It changes this requirement. We've got emails the other day saying the whole course is changing again next year, and it's going.
Who drives that? That's government TAFE.
TAFE.
Yeah. So TAFE are government, and so they'll obviously there's got to be some kind of commercial reasoning behind what they're doing. If they're not getting enough people or they're not selling enough courses, they still run it like a business. But you need enough courses to cover.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not going to comment on.
Yeah, okay. So it's like this, and I'm more curious from a lack of interest because I'm still learning. So you're required to have this skill set to get the license to do the job, which the government requires, and then the government have educational organisation that does that course, and sometimes the course might not be available.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of work around, and this comes down to something which is going to be on your lap soon, which is a landscaper's license.
Yeah.
And then can you do the Cert 3 or whatever, and you end up with a landscaping license, stage 1. Or
Do you think that could be a private company that delivers that?
Yeah,
because I know that I haven't had a chance to meet with her yet, but there's or whoever is the people that are involved, but the ARO have obviously got new ownership, and I've met with some landscapers recently that have been saying that they're very keen to make the education of this more in line with society today rather than 20 years ago. So so the more players in that market, the better, really. Yep.
Obviously,
I think it would be beneficial for it to be a private institution that ends up,
because it'll get run like a business.
Yeah. But at the moment, I personally believe that most of them are incentive based, so the training isn't where it should be.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
So if you got a trainer that gets an incentive per module that's signed off,
it's about sign off, not quality. That's
correct.
Not just landscaping.
That's everything. But so we need to. I mean, when it's our only training branch in our industry, it's an issue.
Because I'm seeing it. We've got staff doing certs, which are government supported certs, and some of them are amazing, and then other times it's basically a tick and flick. Like, as long as you rock up, you get paid, they get paid, but then the education's not there, which was the whole point. So, and I'm not saying that's in the landscaping industry, but that's obviously we sit off to the side, and it's not just irrigation. Some of our team are doing work health safety and other stuff.
It's not as bad as it was 10, 15 years ago when they first came in with all
that
these
was
schemes.
It was out of control.
That was companies in Queensland set,
sending
umbrella companies
reps down.
Not as bad as that, but it's still there. I guess I've got no more questions. What have you guys got happening now? Is there anything you want to be promoting? Have you got no shows coming up? Are you going to be in the SA?
Yeah, SA Landscape Festival's coming up again.
Yep.
Which we will certainly be. Well, we are involved in.
Yep.
Only got 2 gardens this year though.
Yep. What did you have last time?
3.
Yep.
Which is fine, but you got to man them, so you got to get between them somehow.
Yep. So you'll just maybe have one of you at each garden.
Yeah.
That's what you do this time.
Yep. So that's exciting. Looking forward to that. And apart from that, I think we're just plugging along as normal.
I'm guessing I'll have to go look at these gardens this year.
Yeah, that's the problem with last year. I didn't get to see any.
Well, I didn't go, but it's
you saw a couple of them at the awards night. I'm sure you would have seen them on the big
not
screen.
Actually being. And like you said, you can't judge a garden from standing from the outside. You have to get inside it. But I'll obviously have a responsibility to get out there. It's funny being the president of a landscape association and not being a landscaper, because I'm like, well, I don't need to get involved in that. And they're like, you kind of do. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't just do the business side of it. And they're like, no.
You could be involved at least a little bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, or I'll just send Marty. He can go do that. he can go do the looking. So, thank you so much for coming in. I know it's a really busy time. It was convenient though. I brought you your Christmas present. So one of these is yours to share.
Thank you.
Lovely.
I know you both don't drink, but I'm sure you can share this between.
I think we'll manage that. Thank you.
We'll work it out. So thank you for your continued support. I appreciate you coming in and doing this, and I wish you guys all the best moving forward in your retirement or your semi-retirement. So thank you.
Same with you, mate. Thanks, Clint.
Thanks a lot.